Hello and welcome to Santos on Sports alongside my good friend and partner, Mr. Chris Santos. I am Paul Santos. Welcome in. We're happy to be sponsored, as you might know, by Scotty's Pub, located at 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. Thank you to them. Citywide Glass with 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville. And John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you go to johnseedlaw.com for more information. So, Chris, how are we doing today?
I'm good, Paul. Obviously, once again, I hope your holiday was very good, Christmas, and coming up, obviously, for the new year. But it was an exciting weekend, obviously, being Christmas, but yet NFL on Saturday, NFL on Sunday, and obviously even last night, a Monday night game. So a lot of football going on during this Christmas break, and just love to be around it.
Yeah, me too. My wife was like, how many games are you going to watch anyway? One ends, and then the next one, wait till wild card weekend when it's like 3 Saturday and 3 Sunday, 6 games in a row. But speaking of football, I got to tell you, we put up this question here. Who is to blame for this Patriots debacle of a season? Now, I know 7-8, like I said, a lot of places where they say, well, it's around 500, whatever. But I got to tell you, I'm really saying to myself, I think it's Belichick. I think it's all Belichick. I'm starting to think that Belichick's a fraud. I'm sorry to say that. The words can't even come out of my mouth. I can't believe what I'm saying. I mean, without Brady, this guy's a 500 coach. He gets into these beefs like he did with Malcolm Butler a few years ago. And I'm watching this game, right? And I've been critical of Mac Jones, and probably rightly so. But in all fairness to Mac Jones, Belichick brings in these offensive coordinators who really didn't have enough experience. He rips up the whole book from last year that Mac Jones had studied. And he could have done better. It was his rookie year. But, he was thinking, hey, I'll come back. He's studying the playbook and all that. No, that's all ripped up. We're bringing in these other guys that change everything around. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're going to do the offensive line different, got all this stuff different. Messes the whole thing up. And then the clincher, right? Think about this the other day. And I want to focus on one thing because it's easy to just kind of focus on one thing. How about Kendrick Bourne? How in the world do you explain this, right? Because he pushed back a little bit against the fact that he's looking around and he's like, what the hell kind of a system is this? Mac Jones said that too, and he didn't get benched, right? So there's 2 things. Number one, if he had just stayed with Zappe, just to see what would happen with that, just to see if he fizzled out or not, number one. Number 2, how do you not put Bourne in there, right? I said right from the beginning, right from last year when I went to that game with my son to see the Saints, I was like, who's this guy Bourne? Clearly he was the best guy in the field, and he's taking like 10% of the snaps, right? So now you can go back and say, well, if we got this bad call or that bad call, well, all teams can say that. But just think, right? Playing Bourne consistently and maybe letting Zappe finish out whatever run he was going to be on. Just those couple of things like that. Clearly, we could have got 2 more wins on the season, right? There's 2 games that they've blown. Now, you can look back and say, well, you look at statistics, right? They shouldn't even been in that game with Cincinnati. Well, maybe you're right. They got lucky. Jones threw the Hail Mary, it bounced off a guy's head. Somebody else caught it. Okay, great. You had the interception, and they got another pick 6 for the defense. The defense has almost as many touchdowns as the offense does. But anyway, so there was some luck involved. But the fact of the matter is they had a chance to win the game at the end. They blew it. But again, getting back to Bourne, I mean, you had mentioned when we were texting back and forth, hey, the Cincinnati defense was kind of playing back a little bit. The second half, they were just kind of sitting on the lead and all that. That's true. But, as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why that guy should have been in the doghouse. And he should have been playing all along. And once he started playing him, Mac Jones likes him. He clicks with him. He should be in there. But no, Belichick is stubborn. He won't play the guy. You know what I mean? So those kind of things irritate me a little bit. So I think, hey, they asked him, who's to blame for all this? He said, I'm the head coach. I'm responsible. Well, I think he is responsible. I don't think he's done a very good job this year at all.
Paul, I am going to agree with you for the first time probably in a long time. But yes, I truly believe this is all on Bill Belichick. And it starts with, obviously, the season that Brady left and why he left. Probably could have done something about that. Then he comes back, makes the draft choice of the quarterback that he wanted, goes out and gets all the free agents that he planned around and said, it's going to fit my schemes. Went out and got the 2 coaches that he thought were Judge and Patricia that are going to run this new offense and steer us in the right direction and get us back to where we belong. So it all falls on his shoulders. Every game that comes on, who keeps playing at quarterback, who's been in the doghouse, who's on that field. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's 11 players playing on defense and 11 on offense. But this all revolves around one man. And whether you like it or you don't, he is the main leader of this team. He tells you what's going on. And he's the one that's going to make the picks for his team, whether it's a draft, whether it's a free agent, whether it's a coach, what's out there on the field and the production. As he always says, I'm going to put the best personnel on the field for me to win the game. And when you're not winning the game, then it's got to fall on him, because those are the people he's putting in. Those are the people who he trusts in his systems. I agree with you 100%. This is all on Bill Belichick. Plain and simple.
Who's at fault for this debacle, right? Chris and I have a certain view on this. It looks like we're lining up pretty good today, so that's good. It doesn't happen too often. So what do you think? Give us a call at 774-762-6234. Who is to blame? Hello, you are on Santos on Sports.
Santos, it's Jordan Piver. How are you?
Hey, Jordan, what's going on?
I'm sick of Patricia. They should put him in the back of the bus and then fire him out.
Wow.
But I do agree. I don't think Belichick has a clue on what he's doing. It's been absolutely ridiculous. I've attended many of the games this season, and to have the results. I mean, those, like you just said, the last two games, the Raiders was just, I wasn't even upset because I wasn't surprised that something stupid like that was going to happen. Why would we ever go in overtime? And then the last game, look at this. We were horrible, and then we came back at halftime, and it's just stupid mistakes. It's stupid mistakes. And, you know, they have a player on the team that I don't even think they utilize. And when they do utilize them, it's always success. And that's Hunter Henry. I feel like every time, you know, Mac Jones throws a bomb or throws a really good thing, Hunter Henry always catches the damn ball, and we never use him. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
All right, Chris, what do you think?
Jordan, you know, you're talking about the last two games, but even during this season, one thing that a Belichick team has is great communication. And I'm not seeing it this year. I'm seeing a lot of bitterness. I'm seeing a lot of complaining. I'm seeing a lot of hands up. I'm seeing a lot of timeouts. I'm seeing a lot of flags. That's not Bill Belichick's style. And to me, it's been like that. Now, there were times, don't get me wrong, and people say this on the media, oh, Mac Jones is putting his hands and he shouldn't be doing that. No, hey, wait a minute. I remember when Tom Brady used to go off to the sideline and kind of go crazy over there too. So don't say it's all on Mac. Now, I understand you don't want to show your coaches up on the field. I get it. If he goes over the sidelines, takes the clipboard and throws it down on the computer or whatever it is, okay. But Brady used to do the same thing too. But this year, for some reason, there's been a lot of extra miscommunication between the coaching staffs, the players, and of course, the most important person, the quarterback. Everything relies on Bill Belichick in my eyes.
I agree. The communication is just terrible. And there was even that other game. I don't remember what happened. Mac Jones threw it. We got the touchdown, but then the refs were like, oh, no. They called a timeout. Yeah. And then we ended up not getting that touchdown. And, oh, man, the communication is just horrible. Yeah. And I understand Mac's frustration, but, you know, he needs to get his stuff together, too.
Yeah, you know, and it's funny, like, I never thought I would ever hear myself say, what the hell is Belichick doing? I mean, you call up and the first thing you said is, what is he doing? I don't know what he's doing. I never thought we would say that. I thought, even if Tom Brady left and we had like a kind of a scrappy 500 team, that you still wouldn't have like the false starts. You still wouldn't have all this bickering. You still wouldn't have people not on the same page. All that stuff is like really surprising to me. I did not expect this.
And it goes back to the communication. Sometimes we all get upset with these stupid plays, and we're like, you know what? And then the camera will go to the coaches, and we really have no idea. I don't even think, even the fan base, I don't think nobody has an idea of who's making these play calls. I feel like sometimes it's Patricia, sometimes it's Belichick. It doesn't work, then they get together, then, all right, let's try this, I don't think they have an idea or a clue on who's making these play calls. Patricia is doing the offense, and it doesn't make any sense. He went from defense to offense. Let's just get Patricia back because, maybe he could help us and figure it out. But
how about when Coach Belichick was coming down the line, that time they had the ball at the 1 yard line, he called timeout, and then Mac Jones actually threw a touchdown pass, which almost never happens, and I'm like, he called timeout and ruined the play.
That's what I mentioned before. We got a touchdown. We all celebrated, and then all of a sudden we see the ref come out and be like, no. New England called a timeout. I'm like, why? Why did we call a timeout?
Yeah, I know. It's definitely surprising. And by the way, before we let Jordan go, Jordan is going to be a very special guest on my other show a week from tonight down at Cisco. It was supposed to be last night. We had some technical issues, but we fixed them. And it's now going to be a week from tonight. And if you come down and specifically come down to see the Paul Santos live show, 20% off dinner. Maybe Chris Santos will show up.
Make your reservations now.
We're going to be able to do it.
Hey, don't forget to do your Weather Piver imitation.
Always.
All right. Well, thank you very much for calling. We appreciate it.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
All right, Jordan Piver. 774-762-6234. I'm still trying to figure out a way to put somebody on hold while I'm talking to somebody else without cutting them off. I mean, that should be like the first thing I do with the phone system. It's like, so if you called a moment ago, please call again because we really enjoy the calls. Everybody seems to be fired up right now. And, it's interesting because he said the same thing about Hunter Henry that I was saying about Kendrick Bourne. It is true. Last year, Hunter Henry, he had a number of touchdown receptions. All of a sudden, he's invisible, and it's like, is it really because of Hunter Henry? Is he any different? Is he any weaker this year than he was last year? I don't think so. I just think they're not using him right.
Yeah, probably not. And again, I go back to Paul, how good Tom Brady, we talked about this last week on the show, how good Tom Brady was as a leader in that huddle. Not only the communication with his coaches, but the communication with his teammates in that huddle. No false starts, no useless timeouts. Make the plays that need to be made. Goes to show when it's not where it is. And plus, you don't have maybe the right coaching staff the way you want it. How miscommunication really hurts a team. And you can see it this year specifically compared to when Brady used to do it and everything was in sync. And I mean in sync. There was never really any bad plays. An occasional now and then. And even then, that was a doghouse move, and you'd be out, and somebody else would be in. And that's how Brady made you feel. And it's good to have someone like that. And I'm not saying Matt can't get that, but right now, it's not there. And that's where the struggle really is.
All right. Let's go back to the phones here. Hello, you're on Santos on Sports.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
How are you?
Have a blessed and safe holiday season.
Yes, you too.
You too.
Doing good. It's been a while. As I've been sitting here for the last month or so, looking back some of the things I was thinking preseason.
Yep.
Unfortunately, most of them came true. 5 years ago, when Bill We Trust was like a silver dollar, Morgan silver dollar. 3 years ago, it was like a bicentennial quarter, and now it's like a faded wooden nickel. All the coaches that he used to have, the great coaches. This is not a destination where people want to come play unless they get paid ridiculous money. So I think it's just going to be a complete rebuild. And it's going to start with a true offensive coordinator and a true O-line coach.
What happened to Bill? What happened to him? Why is he hiring these lousy coaches and spending money in the wrong place?
Age, I don't think he's caught up to the times in football, and he's comfortable. And he made choices out of being comfortable instead of, he's always said what was right for the team. Well, making this decision about Patricia and Judd was not good for the team. There was nothing practical about it. I appreciate everything he's given us and what he brought New England as a whole. But that was then and this is now.
Well, it's been, 20 years of excellence in that organization under him, and I understand that. And even prior to that, he was maybe a 500 coach before he got to New England with Cleveland, the Jets, where he was. And then he had that great run. And now they come back, and probably it's that new era that you're talking about where you hit now a certain number. And maybe your game plan is not the way it has been in the past, and your personnel's not the same, or then your coaching staff's not the same. And then it all folds into one another, and it all unravels when it goes bad. And right now for him in that era, which is the new one without Tom Brady, it has. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean Bills continues to stay a little longer? Can he stay longer? That's yet to be determined. Or will he sit back and say, hey, man, I got to write this ship all over again. You two guys got to go. You two got to go. I'm moving this, moving this. Let's see where he goes from here and what the next move is.
It's like the anti-Bill, the anti-Patriot was when Andy Reid went to Kansas City. Everything they've done since 2015 on, they were the one that came in Foxborough a few times to beat them and showed them that they were not invincible. And everything's fallen since then.
Yeah, it feels like there was a time there where, you come into Gillette Stadium, you're like down a touchdown before the game even starts, just you look at those banners, you got Bill Belichick, you got Tom Brady. Boy, that's all gone. That is all gone, and it went quickly. And I'm surprised. I got to tell
the
you.
Transfer from Alex Smith to Mahomes right there in the AFC, period. And everything started changing after that as far as I look at it. I'm a historian in sports, and I look at that and I look back and go, and look what Kansas City's done since then, so.
All right, well, Phil.
Pleasure, guys.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much for calling.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We got a lot of calls coming in here. Hello, you're next on Santos on Sports.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Very good, sir. Gentlemen, you're doing a fine job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of comments. I wanted to comment on something that Chris said about Tom Brady and the huddle and communication. I think that you're onto something, Chris. I think that the players, we're not getting – a lot of the blame is not going the players' way over the last couple of weeks or last couple of months. I think that the players have a lot to own up to as well as the coaching. One of the things I wanted to bring up, too, is I think that, the Patriots really didn't have a succession plan for some of the coaches that they lost. They lost two of the finest coaches in all of football, and both the line coach in Scarnecchia and with the coach that went to Vegas with Josh McDaniels. Those are two of the finest coaches in football and at those positions. And they really, they failed by not having a succession plan when they eventually left. And I think we're struggling with that as well. But I just wanted to make sure, talk a little bit about what Chris said. And I agree, Tom Brady is one of the players. And I think he was a coach on the field, and I think he contributed to the communication. And I think all the penalties and offside, I think that's a player thing as well. It can be coaching, but again, these are professional football players that have been playing their entire lives, and they know better, and they know what it takes to win and what it takes to be successful. And they've lost focus and concentration, and who knows why. But yeah, it's been a dismal year. I picked them to go 10-7 earlier on your show this year when it started up. But hey, they're still in it. They could still make the playoffs. We're kind of spoiled here in New England. People say Bill Belichick doesn't know what he's doing. Are you kidding me? He doesn't know what he's doing. But again, like Jerry Callahan said earlier this week, any Patriots fan that is younger than 50 years old, this is what it used to be when we were growing up every year.
All right, let's get Chris's response here.
Yeah, but, and you talk about secession, as a head coach, you have to realize that what's under you, they want to get to where you are. And I'm sure because he lost Josh McDaniels earlier and he got Josh McDaniels back, he knew that Scarnecchia was getting older, but he had faith, and he still has faith in Patricia and Judge. So his claim was, okay, if I lose these two guys, these are the two guys that I'm going to turn to because I trust them and they trust me. Not to say that he couldn't have gone out and got someone else, which he probably should have. But he thought in his head that, hey, I'm Bill Belichick. I can work with anyone. And these are guys who've worked with me before. We're going to be fine. And they're not, because it's not working out the way they wanted it to be. So I still think he had a plan, but I just don't think it's working the way he wanted to with the guys that definitely he had to say, oh, there's no doubt these guys are going to help me out. So when Matt and Matt Jones are talking to one another, it's not the same as Josh talking with Matt. Because you could ask Matt Jones, how was your communications with Josh McDaniels? And I bet you he'd say it's 100% different than what it is with Matt Patricia. Simple as that. So what's working together right now is not. But Bill thought it would, because these guys have worked with me before. And so if I lose Josh and Skynecki, I'm not going to worry about it. These guys will help me out. Well, it's not working because you're putting pieces of the puzzle in the wrong places. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Bill Belichick expected, to not miss a beat. This, I really don't. You think, Bill Belichick is going to say, Matt Patricia is the same as Josh McDaniels? Of course not. But, again, it's disappointing, but in the same breath, it's, look at the NFL. A lot of people say they want to fire Bill Belichick. Well, who are you going to get? What's going to be the results? They didn't manage losing the best quarterback of all times either. That was a difficult decision. I wouldn't have wanted to made that decision, when to get rid of Brady, when to hold on. I'd hate to be, the owner of the Patriots right now thinking, when should I get rid of Bill Belichick? These are decisions that no one wants to make, although, a lot of armchair quarterbacks making them. But I'd hate to really be imagine being in those positions, having to make that. So anyway, fellas, I'll let you go. You can chew on that a little bit, and I enjoy the show.
Hey, thank you very much, Butch. We appreciate the call.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. This whole thing about who's to blame seems to have struck a nerve here. So give us a call at 774-762-6234. Keep those calls coming. Who is to blame? What's going on? And, Butch brings up a good point there because, the frustration myself and Jordan coming on before, hey, Bill Belichick doesn't know what he's doing and all that. I think you're right. I think he thought, because I heard him say, hey, a good coach is a good coach. They said, well, wait a minute, you're putting a guy that was defense oriented to make him the offensive coordinator or whatever. Is that, a good coach is a good coach. Yeah, he thought, I'm Bill Belichick. I can take Matt Patricia, put him over there, push the buttons, and it's going to be the same thing. Maybe not 100% the same thing like Butch is saying, but pretty close to the same thing. And so maybe there was like a little bit of an arrogance there. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know if it's arrogance. I just think it's more of he's comfortable with these guys because he's had them before. So whether it's his son, who he's had, and maybe he'll move his son to a position in the offense. I don't know, but I just think he likes the people around him, and I don't think he wants to go out and start searching and looking for this and looking for that. So he's quite comfortable, and he's going to sit back and say, these are my guys. I'm going with it. They're coaches. They'll learn my system. They'll get it right. They know it because they've been here before, and we're going to do quite well. So, I don't think it's arrogance. I just think it's more of knowing that he's comfortable with his group of people.
Okay, let's see. Hello, you're next on Santos on Sports.
Who's to blame?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing great. First of all, I'm loving this massive wave of callers coming into the game.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, us too.
And so to answer the question, I'm sure I've alluded to it in previous calls, but I think Bill had even said before the season, if this whole thing doesn't work out, he's taking the blame himself. He said the blame should be on me. Well, he certainly set himself up for that with these coaches in place. And again, I do like what one of the previous callers had said. Of course, the players, do have some input in how badly they've been, but at the same time, they're not being put in the best positions to succeed with these really garbage coaches in place. It just seemed like from the very beginning, the stuff that he put in place with these coaches, it was just never going to work. And of course, I had some positivity in the back of my mind that hey, maybe this does work. But when you bring in a guy, Paul, you said it this whole time, the McDaniel system worked. Why go and change it? And like I've been saying, I do like the Shanahan system, but you got to have someone who came from one of those trees, the Shanahan tree, the McVay tree, even the LaFleur tree, even though, clearly Nathaniel Hackett hasn't worked. I'd much prefer someone from that system to do it. So it's just been a cluster the whole way through, and this entirely falls on Bill.
Chris, wasn't the thought process, I think most of the fans, and again, we're not on the inside, but I thought to myself, okay, now we're into the second year of Mac Jones. We're into the second year of all the free agents. We're in the second year of Kendrick Bourne. We're in the second year of Hunter Henry. I thought, okay, you had a kind of 1 year to learn the system, get all that under your belt, and now you go to the second year of that system. To rip the whole thing up and start over, I mean, that to me, that's where he went wrong.
Well, yes, and I agree with Ryan, where if I'm going to change that, then I'm going to get guys that know this down pat. So my guys know it like this. Not let those coaches learn on the fly because they're coaches and they should learn. No, I want guys who know this system and can explain it better, or get the guys that are going to be on that field knowing exactly what to do under this scheme that I'm supposed to be running. So for him to change it is kind of tough. But two, if you decide to do it, which is fine, I think there should have been a better search to say, okay, I'm getting away from the guys that I've had. I got to get the guys that run this kind of offense the way it should be run, and I'm going to go out and find those coaches or even find those players. And whether he did in that free agent trip that he had with Smith and Henry and those guys that he went go get just doesn't seem to be working. Now, whether it's those players, whether it's the coaches, whether it's a combination of them, it could be. But sometimes I think it goes by, obviously, the coaching staff first.
I agree that if you're going to change the system, bring in somebody who knows that system. But before we even get to that, why change the system in the first place, though, Chris? That would be my question. Why not bring somebody in that could run that same system that had been successful for 20 years and just go from there and build?
Because there's no other Tom Brady. There's no other Tom Brady, Paul, that can run maybe that system. And so he's sitting there saying, we need to find something else. I don't have Tom anymore. I need to open this up. I need to go West Coast. I got to find guys. This is the new era of football. More running quarterback, more this, and this. A lot of things changing, a lot of happening. And he wants to fit in, and he wants to find a way. And it's not going to be, in his eyes, to work if I had it without Tom Brady.
Right, but they went 10-7 with that system last year. So
are you happy with that?
No. Well, I'm happier than 8-9.
Yeah, I mean.
All right, let's get Ryan's thought on what you said.
Well, I do agree with that. Obviously, I'm not happy with. I wasn't happy with the end of last year. I was happy that we were 10-7 and made the playoffs, but I didn't like the fact that we got blown off the field by Buffalo. But to be perfectly honest, instead of changing the thing altogether, if I had known that we were just gonna have Matt Patricia just go off of his knowledge of the Shanahan system from Darrell Bevell, I would have, to be honest, what I would have much preferred is either bringing Bill O'Brien back to run that Patriot McDaniel system because he had experience in it with that, or elevate Nick Caley from tight ends coach to offensive coordinator because I've always liked these tight ends coaches getting these offensive coordinator jobs because coaching the tight ends, they're working with the game planning for both the running game and the passing game. So I thought that it would have been fun to try him out.
Ryan, take a look at this year and go back and check the scores and the schedule. Right now, the Patriots are beating the bad quarterbacks, and they're losing to the good quarterbacks. Just think about that. Think about right there and see the scores and what they've done. They're losing to the good quarterbacks, and they're destroying the bad quarterbacks. Basically, I think they did it last year, and they're doing it again this year. They have to find a way to offensively beat the better quarterback and obviously the good teams, and they haven't been able to do
it. They haven't, and again, I don't think that Mac Jones is ever going to be on the level of those guys.
Yeah.
But something that I harp back on because of these coaches that are in place. We never have had an opportunity to see any growth to see what Mac Jones' ceiling could be. And you mentioned we're losing to all the good quarterbacks and only beating the bad quarterbacks. It just harps back to the same thing. Like, Bill is just kind of waiting for everyone else in the league to screw up instead of, trying to put their roster, put their team, put his quarterbacks to the level of those other guys.
Doesn't it seem like, Chris, that this group of players, certainly not the most talented team in the league. No, nobody's saying that.
Right.
But shouldn't the greatest coach of all time be doing a little bit better with this talent group than he is?
Well, I think they've improved defensively from last year, but offensively, no, they have not. And that's the side of the ball that they need work and they need help. And whether it's from the coaching staff, whether it's from the players, whether it's from your quarterback, a combination of all, they have regressed from last year to this year, no doubt about it.
All right. Well, it's been an interesting stretch of time. No question about that, Ryan. Thank you so much for the call, as usual.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, let's see. Let's try this one.
Let's
Oh,
go.
you're on Santos on Sports.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Not from Chicago.
Oh, boy, we got a long-distance call here.
Yes, sir.
You need a 2-hour show or call waiting today.
I know. It's great. We're having a great time.
Awesome. Awesome. Who's to blame, Mark, in your eyes?
That's the
Is
question.
this all
Who's
on
to blame?
Belichick?
Hey, I thought I've been saying Belichick's to blame for the last 20 years.
Yeah, but they won 6 Super Bowls.
Even when they're winning.
Thank you, Tom Brady.
Yeah, right. I guess that's true.
Now, hey, listen, you say the arrogance. Who knows? Listen, a lot of this is ego-driven for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at last year, you've got veterans that have come in before, like Chad Johnson, for example, who couldn't learn the playbook offensively. So that was an intense playbook that, honestly, I think Josh McDaniels was the mastermind of. He's gone. Maybe part of that thought process of switching the offense was because Bill didn't know who he could bring in that could actually run Josh McDaniels' offense, not Bill's offense. Tom's gone. Josh is gone. We need a new coach, and we need to change the playbook. But if you look at what he's done over the years, guys, it's his kids, former players, or coaches he's close to. Even next year, who's the number one name on the list? Bill O'Brien. He's been there before. I don't think the way Belichick operates things, there can be a true outsider that can come in and want to put up with Belichick's way, and I think that's part of the problem too. But, the thing is, we talked about this last week, and here we are. They win the last 2 games, they're in the playoffs, so they can still make the damn playoffs, no matter how crazy this season has been. But at the end of the day, they're a better team than last year. And how they can be under 500, the defense is considerably better, whether you believe it or not. They're a top 10 defense. And listen, they've got more weapons than they did on offense. They just do. So you've got nobody to blame. And I agree with one of the callers. Listen, the players have got to be responsible. There's no doubt.
Yep.
But the coaching is the reason we're here at 8 and 9. There's no doubt about it. And I would, and I know, Paul, we've talked before. We both listened to all the press conferences. I think last week when one of the reporters asked, hey, when Kendrick Bourne is involved in the offense, it just looks better. Why aren't we using him more? And when Bill says no particular reason, to me, that sums up the entire year right there in that statement. It's like they really don't have any idea what they're doing.
No, I can see where he's coming from, Paul, and I agree with what he's saying. And it starts up at the top. So that's why we put all the blame on Bill. You don't have Tom anymore. You try to duplicate, what has been so successful in a new era after 20 years. And then you try to compete the way you can. But without the proper coaching staff, and like you said, it could have been Josh's system, under that to say, hey, Tom knew exactly mentally how to do it. Now, does that say that Josh couldn't have took, Mac one more year this year if he didn't leave and he would have learned more and gotten better? Hey, that's a possibility. I mean, we'll never know that, but that could be true. Because remember, even when Tom played with Josh, it didn't click right away. It took a little bit and then they got going. So, that's a good statement that could be said for the New England Patriot coaching staff that, yeah, we really miss him because this was the offense that we built around, and he knew it better than anybody else. Now, can they get someone in to run this new scheme? I think they can, but who's it going to be and where you going next? And as Mark just said, Bill O'Brien seems to be the first name. Well, I don't think I want to hear Bill O'Brien. It's because it's another name that Bill knows real well. Let's move on and let's get something fresh in there and something new.
What do you think, Mark? I'm looking back at these last few games here. Okay, they lost 2 in a row. They lost 3, or actually 4 out of the last 5. There are a couple of games here. I mean, the Bengals, the Patriots are basically getting blown out. They were lucky that they were in that game, but they still had a chance to win it. But the thing is when Bourne was in there, they started doing well. He clicks with the guy. He should be in there. You look back at a couple of these other games, the Raiders game, they absolutely should have won that one. Even the Vikings game, they had a shot to win it. But, it just seems like, hey, if somebody's in the doghouse and that's going to hurt the team in the win column, I mean, you get away with it with Brady. But now that you don't have Brady, there shouldn't be anybody in the doghouse. I mean, Mac Jones pushed back against this offense even more than Bourne did, and he's still playing. So that whole thing with Bourne, I know I'm focusing on that one player, but that was irritating to see him come in there and making all these catches and everything, and he's hardly in there for any of the snaps.
That's a Bill. He clashed with Patricia. He made I don't remember in training camp. Bourne, I think, had an issue with the players at that time. And then Bill says, we're going to penalize him. So that's why when Bill gets out there and throws his, we're going to do the best thing for the team, he's full of shit, because Bourne would be in the game taking the majority of the snaps if we were focusing on what's best for the team.
Exactly.
There's no way around that, right?
Yeah, and again, you mentioned the press conferences. I love watching the press conferences, but it is interesting or irritating because Bill never tells you anything. In fact, my wife says he says the same thing every time. I already know what he's going to say. They lose the game, like, they made more plays than we did, And you ask him a question about why are you doing this or why are you doing that, and they ask him the question, why isn't Bourne playing well? Well, no particular reason. He doesn't want to say what the reason is. He never really tells you anything, And when they were winning and Brady was there, they win the Super Bowls, like, well, that's the crusty old coach being a tough guy and all that. Yeah. But now that that's all gone, I'm looking at him like, this guy's a pain in the ass. Like the media is trying to ask him a question, and really when a media person asks a question and you're giving the answer, that's for the fans. That's for us that they're asking the question. It's not like the media can kiss my ass. No, they're asking the questions for us, the fan who supports you. So you should answer the damn question.
He'll never answer a question. That's been Bill's
MO for
years. But to go back to that, Mark and Paul, think about why Bourne was even playing. Remember, Parker's not playing. You got to give other guys some rest. You had Hunter Henry banged up, so he went off. And so now they changed the package a little bit. And all of a sudden they go, well, I guess we got to get Bourne in because we need some players. All of a sudden, he starts making plays. Well, where the hell you been? This should be going on, a little bit more frequently, and they didn't do it. So to me, it was just a lucky break. That's the first thing to have them. And second, Mike, let me ask you this question. The score was 22-0 at the half, and I thought it could have been like 35-0. But explain to me the second half, how the Cincinnati Bengals put up a goose egg. What second half adjustments did you see by New England that made Cincinnati not do anything on the offense?
Well, I think Cincinnati. I think a couple things. I think Cincinnati took the foot off the gas pedal a little bit.
Yeah.
And by the way, we want to talk about coaching. I'm not a big fan of the Cincinnati coach either.
Yeah.
But I think Cincinnati took the gas off a little bit. And listen, it seemed like New England put a lot more pressure on him in the second half because listen, the first 3 drives of the game, boom, 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 touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. You're going, boy, this game's going to be over. Right. It already is. So they stopped them pretty well in the second half. But listen, this is nothing more than Bill, because we could talk about how Brady, and I'm not going to discount what one of your other callers said. Listen, scheme wise, defensive wise, Belichick is the best there is. But without Brady there, he's failed to evolve. and Brady picked up the slack. Mac Jones is not at the point where he can take guys like a David Patton or a Deion Branch and make them, all-stars. That was Tom. And I think if you look at the team now and the way they played last year, and we got two good running backs, but when the offense was humming last year and Mac was playing much better, it was Hunter Henry and it was Kendrick Bourne. And Hunter Henry was in the red zone. I think he had his career high in touchdowns last year. And then he did a little bit of what Gronk was doing. He'd do the seam route. He would just run straight down the field, catch the ball, boom, and then you use Bourne out of the backfield. Bourne last year was a little bit of what San Francisco does with Deebo Samuel. They'll run him. They'll do some end arounds. They'll do some screen passes. They'll go deep. And then this year, you got a lot less Hunter Henry. And you got virtually no Kendrick Bourne. Those were arguably your two best non-running back offensive players last year. And why? You got to ask Bill. Now, the difference with the press conferences, he's been the same grumpy old man this whole time. But the press conferences this year, the questions primarily are around coaching, and the team's not prepared, and the team's not ready for situational football. It's never been like that before. So he's given the same no answers, but the focus on the press conferences and the questions are the fact that, hey, Bill, the team doesn't seem prepared for these games. And the team always got better as you got into November and December. Now the team goes the other way. And how come we got linemen that aren't lined up? We got calling timeouts and you got a guy earlier called about the game. I think it was against the Raiders when we had four downs on the 1 yard line. And the one play, he threw a touchdown to Jacoby Myers when Bill ran down the sidelines and called a timeout. And you asked Bill, why did you call that timeout? He says, they called the wrong play. Well, they obviously didn't call the wrong play. They got a touchdown out of it. But he didn't like the play, which says he didn't have confidence that Patricia called the right play. So anyways, hey, you got a lot of other guys calling in. I just had to chime in here. And it's hard everybody's pointing the fingers at Bill. But, boy, I'll tell you, it's rightfully so, and he's got to be feeling heat, and you can see it. The press conferences are all – now, here's what you don't know is what happens at the end of the season. I don't want them to make the playoffs. I've never wanted to root against my team, but think about this. We get no Tua next week. So chances are Miami at New England with Teddy Bridgewater, probably a winnable game for the Patriots.
I agree.
Then it comes down to – beat Buffalo, you're in the playoffs. Buffalo, you never know. Last game of the year, they might be locked in at number 2 or number 1. They might rest guys.
Exactly. So the Patriots could still sneak in at 9-8.
They could still. Now I heard some ramblings last week that if he hires an offensive coordinator next year, like Patricia and Judge will still be on the coaching staff, but maybe Patricia will be the O-line coach.
Mm-hmm.
Judge will be the. You got to get rid of those fucking guys.
All right, Mike. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for the call. Call again. We always enjoy it.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, let's try this one. Hello, you're on Santos on Sports.
Hello, Paul.
Yes, hi.
This is Bill Belichick.
Hi, Bill.
I heard you guys talking about me, so I decided to call in.
What do you have to tell us?
So, Bill, what are you doing? What's going on with your coaching staff here?
Well, it's not a me problem; it's a them problem. I really, really miss Tom. I miss Tom, but we're on to Mac Jones. And if we're not on to Mac Jones, we have Zappy. But I don't want Zappy. I want Mac Jones.
So you're finally admitting that you miss Tom, huh?
I wouldn't call it missing. I would say we're on to Mac Jones.
Yeah, right, Mac Jones. What about Zappy? How about Zappy fever?
I know about Zappy fever. There's COVID tests for that. But right now it's a little confusing with the coaching. I'm not going to lie.
All right, Bill. Well, thank you very much. I really wish you would answer more questions at the press conferences.
No, I don't have time for that. We're on to Miami.
We're on to Miami. All right, Bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Bill Belichick on the line there. All right, so we got a comment here from Neil Jorgensen. Yep. Neil Jorgensen says we had 20 years. Yep. Now it's someone else's turn.
Yep.
Well, I suppose,
listen, Paul. What could you always rely on in those 20 years? Okay, I could probably give you 6 or 7 things. Here's number 1. You always deferred to the second half. You always got the ball at the end of 2 minutes in the first half, and you usually put points on the board. You usually got the ball to start the second half, and you went down the field and scored. You always got the ball at the end of the game. You found the way to score and win the game. You won the turnover battle. You won the flag battle, and you won the timeout battle. Those things for 20 years happened almost every game that I was always watching. You could always put it down on paper. This was going to happen, and it just did. And it just did, and it just did.
I know.
And sometimes, things have to change, and the era has changed, and obviously other things have to change with it. Whether it's players, coaching staff, head coach, whatever, those things are not going to be what it used to be. But you could always count on it, because I remember watching for those 20 years, and I always saw it.
I remember watching these games, knowing that they were going to win, like just sitting there going, I'm not worried about this at all. They're just going to win the game. You know what I mean? And it was almost like, I don't want to use the word boring at all, because I'm a Patriots fan and I enjoyed it. But these last couple of years, in a way, in kind of a weird, strange way, have almost been more entertaining in the sense that I'm watching every game, focusing on every down of every game. Like, this down could be the difference between, going over 500 or sneaking into the playoffs, and this play and that play and that down and that down, everything. I'm hanging on every single thing. Whereas before I used to be like, okay, it's going to be another first round bye. Then we got the weak first round opponent at Gillette. They got no chance. And then they were in the AFC Championship. And so that's how it was. It's absolutely true. We get used to that. Let's see. Now we got a comment here from Derek Farias, who's watching on Fall River Reporter. He says, we got no weapons. Paul, they have to have weapons. They made mistakes on free agents. They
got Bourne, but he's on the bench.
Right, exactly. Now Derek Farias says every team has a true number 1 wide receiver.
Yep.
Bill's failures have been on his team management, not so much coaching.
Mm-hmm. Well, that came in that free agency and that big that big burst of money that they had, and they went out and said, we're going to get these guys. And to me, and I've said this from the beginning, it starts with Hunter Henry and Jonas Smith. If those were the 2 big free agents, that was the most money you spent on, then those are the 2 guys that should be getting a bulk of that ball as much as you can. They've always had a good running game. The running game is still solid. I know Stevenson fumbled the other day, and Bill said, hey, listen, he's been great all year. Sometimes you try to do a little bit too much, and it happens. Okay, it did. And it cost him. But as a number 1 receiver, Bill, maybe besides Randy Moss, you really had a 1 receiver. I know you've had your Edelmans and, your little slot guys, but I wouldn't say there was always a 1 for Bill Belichick. Some of these other teams rely on that. The Patriots usually never had, but when you've had the most accurate quarterback and the best one of all time, you can get away with it. And
right,
that's how they lived.
Right.
So
Well, I think Mark made that point.
Now.
Yeah, Mark made that point. He was like,
yes.
Tom Brady made stars out of guys like Amendola and people like that, right? That maybe if they were on other teams, you probably would have never heard of them.
Yeah,
but because it was Tom Brady, he could make a guy more effective. Okay, so that's great. So now you don't have that Tom Brady anymore. So Bill Belichick in the old days could think, well, we'll just use this guy, we'll just use that guy. Tom Brady will make stars out of all these guys. Well, now we don't have that, right? Tom Brady's not walking through that door, as you like to say. So now when you got Mac Jones in there, like happened in Miami, and happened in Buffalo and some of these other teams, they added people. Right? And the Patriots, they didn't really. I remember during the offseason, I'm like, why aren't they signing this guy? Why aren't they signing that guy? Well, that's not the way Bill does it. Well, that's fine, but at some point, because you have a young quarterback, because you have a young team and learn the system and all that, maybe this is the time that you want to spend a little bit. And don't forget,
they spent it the year before.
Money.
Yeah, they spent it the year before.
Yeah, I know. And they I mean, he's supposedly the greatest coach of all time, right? Mm-hmm. So you give the greatest coach of all time an open checkbook, basically, and it still didn't work. So that I thought for sure that the combination of Kraft saying, here's the money to spend, combined with whatever draft picks that you're going to do, plus you're the greatest coach of all time, that you put those three things together and you're going to have at least a 10-7 team. You're going to be a couple games over 500 anyway. You know what I mean? To have that be the case, greatest coach of all time, money that you can spend whatever you want. You can pick, a couple of draft picks or whatever, and you still can't get over 500. To me,
listen, before he came, I remember a lot of New England Patriot fans saying, we need to upgrade our quarterback. And Bill, not known for selecting quarterbacks in the first round, maybe I don't know if he listened to the crowd, but he knew he needed to get something else. And everybody sat there and said, well, at 15, this guy, Mac Jones, is the real deal. And all the New England fans that I know had jumped on it. And they were excited and said, this is our guy. He can do it. We're going to get it done. Bill can lead him and so forth. Well, right now it's not working and everybody's looking to jump ship. And you're the first one, too, saying, I want Mac out and I want Zappy in. But I remember when you were saying in that draft, we need to go get a quarterback. And Mac from Alabama, a great, accurate quarterback, he would fit nicely in New England. So it's not working out the way you want it. And now people are saying, oh, we shouldn't have gone get Mac Jones. So that's where it makes it very difficult for me. It's something that you wanted and you went go get, and you took the chance on it, and it's just not working out.
Right. I mean, I think with the Zappy thing, that was kind of a surprise. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody expected, Zappy to come in that Packers game. Now, again, they were running the ball a lot. They weren't asking him to do a heck of a lot, just kind of manage the offense. But he still took the Packers into overtime, same Packers team that just beat Miami. Then had that great game against the Lions, 29-0. And then against the Browns, 38-15. Now, in the Bears game, he came in and got a couple of scores right away after the benching of Mac Jones, but then he looked pretty bad in the second half against the Bears. So, again, I think that was just a surprise. To me, I still think, if somebody comes off the bench and they're hot, it's kind of like the hot goalie, just play him until we start losing, and you bring the other guy back. So I don't know how that would have worked out. If they had kept playing Zappy, maybe Zappy would have lost some of those games after that. I don't know. I mean, they played the Jets and they played the Colts. He might have been able to win those games. I don't know. Maybe get a few more games under his belt. As far as Mac Jones, I don't know if it's really enough time has gone by, right, to decide whether or not that was the right decision because, with the change of the offense and losing McDaniels and putting Patricia in there, you look at Mac Jones and, and I've been critical of him and everything else, but part of me has to say you can't really blame him, because he kind of knew at the beginning of the year. We had a lot of experts saying at the beginning of the year when the Patriots were, having scrimmages and stuff like that. And a lot of the experts were like, what the heck are they doing? People are bumping into each other. They don't know where they're going. So even though Mac Jones is a young guy, he could still see that it was going to fail. So I think the jury is still out on Mac Jones. He's still
let's not forget too, Paul, he got hurt.
Right. Yes.
So that takes a lot out of your reps. That takes a lot out of getting this new system to know everybody with his new coaches. I think that kind of hurt him too. That put him on the back burner, and then he's trying to rush back in and maybe do some things he shouldn't be doing. But I've noticed lately, Paul, and I hope you have too, just don't think the arm strength is there as what I saw like from last year. And they don't trust the throws down the field a little bit more. And even a point where I can throw a Hail Mary or something, they don't even give him a chance. It just doesn't seem as much zip as he had like from last year or maybe at the beginning. So I'm not sure if he's still bothered and doesn't feel comfortable, but doesn't seem like it has been from what I've been watching.
Yeah, the only zip we saw was some Zappy. That was about it. That's the only zip Zappy. Zip Zappy came in. But anyway, remember there was a game where they caught him on the sideline and he was like, let's throw the ball down the field. Let's throw the ball
Yes.
down the field.
Yes.
Now, it's 3rd and 17. I'm watching the game. I forget. I think it was a Buffalo game. And it was like 3rd and 17. And Josh Allen comes out and throws the ball 19 yards, first down.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, now again, this guy's not Josh Allen and we don't have the weapon and all that. But to me, to throw a screen pass in 3rd and 17, have the player get 5 yards and punt, why don't we just have the quarterback throw a bomb? What's the worst thing that can happen? It's intercepted. That's the same thing as a punt. Let him throw the ball down the field. Who cares if it looks bad on your stats? I'd rather have him throw a 40-yard bomb that is intercepted than to throw a screen pass and then punt. And in all fairness to Mac Jones, he threw a really nice ball to Thornton. And, I mean, Thornton had to turn in just a little bit. But, I mean, that was right in his breadbasket. He should have made that catch. And that was a nice throw that Mac Jones made to him.
Yeah, there are times, you play field position. And I've seen teams do it, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 20. They're at the 50, and they run a draw instead. And then they play field position because their defense is playing pretty good against the other team. Right. And they punt it down to like the 10-yard line or 5-yard line. And then they work for that field position. So I agree. I'd like to see a little bit more, but there are times I sit back and say, nah, it's not worth it. I'll play the field position. My defense is going to really turn it up the heat right now, and we're going to get the ball back and get a new fresh set of downs, and we're going to get ourselves back to where we want. So I don't kind of look at it as every time it's 3rd and 17, I got to be firing it. So I kind of disagree with that in some ways. It just depends on the situation, but I can understand the frustration. When you call, a 5-yard pass when it's 3rd and 15, I get that, and we see it all the time in the NFL. But I think sometimes they just play for the momentum. They don't want it to change. Pin them back, play good D, maybe create a turnover, get the ball back, and then start all over again.
All right, a couple of quick final comments here. We've got Mike Consaccio saying, "What's up, fellas? I think it boils down to continuity. Too many changes in game management and game adjustments."
Well, I mean, yeah, during the game. See, you just talked about it, Paul, with Mac asking for a different play on 3rd and 15. That's fine, but you don't show up the coach and do it on the field. You wait till the play's over. You come off the sideline. Then you can discuss it with the coach when you're sitting down and say, hey, listen, why are we running that? When you open it up like that and Mac's got the hands up, that's what the media is critical about with him. And that's what other NFL former Patriot players are saying, like an Edelman. And he's a little upset. And some of these other guys saying, well, what's Mac doing? You shouldn't be showing up to coaches like that. I understand that. Makes perfect sense. So there's another way to do it. He's just not doing it the right way.
Yeah, I think Vince Wilfork was saying the same thing.
He was
so a lot
another
of
one too.
Yep. Saying the same thing. All right, and Jordan puts a final comment in here. Bill loves to bring people back, and I love that. Last year, Danny Amendola was signed to the Texans for only $5 million for 1 year. You're telling me that we didn't have that money? So Jordan is suggesting that, hey, maybe a Danny Amendola might have helped the situation this year.
Well, do you have a little slot receiver like Edelman and Amendola from the past? Do you have that this year? Have you seen that? I mean, no. So to me, it's creating a different offense. And, I'm going maybe out wide to in more than I'm going, more in to out wide. So, and that's what happens when you spend money on Smith and Henry more than the other guys.
Well, I really want to say to the callers, really appreciate all of the action here today. We had a really fun show. I wanted to get into the Celtics, but we'll save that for next time. But I know Chris Santos really enjoyed his boy Jason Tatum leaping in the air and slamming one down right in the face of Giannis Antetokounmpo the other day. And it was like, oh, did you see that? Did you see him dunk right over Giannis? I said, I certainly did. So, I mean, I'm rooting for him and everything, rooting for Tatum. So, hey, that was quite a good statement game I think they made there. I mean, they're still missing Middleton. I don't know what's going on with Middleton, but Celtics are deeper than a lot of these other teams and more talented than the other team. And I don't know, they looked really good against the Bucks.
Well, it was nice to see from a comeback because when you lost 2 to Orlando and then you lost to the Pacers, everybody's like, what's going on? And then they turned the heat up against Minnesota, won by 15. And now, obviously, you got prime time 5:00, Christmas Day. Hey, this is, let's see what we got. Now, it's not the last shot of the game, Paul, that I know you're dying for. You want that it factor. I get the whole thing. But if he can do it during the game and get 41 and 8 and 6 and show up and, dunk over Antetokounmpo and look like, hey, I'm the man that's taking over this game, I'll take it for now. And if I get down later on down the road where I got to make a big shot, let's hope it happens. But I like the way he rebounded. I like the way he's playing. I like the way the whole team is gelling. And as you said, the bench is coming through as well.
When you send me a text, Chris sends me a text, and he doesn't refer to anything. He's not referring to basketball. He's not. All of a sudden, I just see 48 and 6. 48 and 6. And that's all he has. He doesn't have to say, hey, you're watching the Celtics, or hey, that's Jason Tatum. All of a sudden, this stat goes 48 and 6. I already know if I happen to not be watching the game or I'm out of. As soon as I see 48 and 6, I'm like, oh boy, Tatum's having a good night tonight.
Listen, I'm just waiting for that last second shot, and he bangs one. Because your phone could be nonstop. I could be 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. It factor.
Well, I'm rooting for it. I am rooting for it. I can tell you that.
It's fun.
Let's take the opportunity to thank our sponsors, John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. And you can check out his website at johnseedlaw.com. We have Lakeville Athletic Club located at 325 Bedford Street in Lakeville, where you can play tennis and pickleball. It's a place where Chris Santos proudly wears the jersey when he's playing tennis for the Lakeville Athletic Club. And I heard he's still bringing in those W's, so that's really good. That's really great. Citywide Glass, 3 locations to serve you, 425 State Road in Dartmouth, other locations in Fall River and Taunton, and Scotty's Pub located at 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River. All right, any closing thoughts?
No, Paul. I mean, we talked about how the Patriots play against the better quarterbacks, and they've been destroying the lesser ones. Now, obviously, Tua is not going to be playing with concussion protocol, so Teddy Bridgewater steps up. I think the Pats can get to Teddy and maybe take away Tyreek and obviously Waddle and force them to have a little bit more. So I think they have a good chance at it to kind of hang in there, but they're going to need some help, obviously. The Chargers playing well. The Jets are up there, and a couple of them other teams trying to survive the wild card. So it's going to be quite interesting, but it favors them in this game without Tua, who did struggle against the Packers, but was he right and should have been even on the field? So that one's a little tougher, but the Patriots had much success this year against lesser quarterbacks.
It would be fun if they get by the Dolphins, obviously playing with against Teddy Bridgewater's. And the season comes down to this game at Buffalo, where they're going to be heavy, heavy underdogs, right? Mm-hmm. But hey, you never know. Could be snowing, could be wind, could be whatever. Maybe they're resting guys.
Good.
So that game right there, if they can get by the Dolphins game, the Bills game is kind of like a play-in playoff game. So how exciting would that be? I mean, I don't expect them to beat Buffalo, but look at all the games during the course of this year. Has this been the most unpredictable NFL season that you've ever seen? I mean,
there's been some tough games.
I'm watching the red zone, and I'm looking at the score, and I'm like, wait a minute, let me get my glasses. Am I reading that right? Every once in a while, look what happened with Houston and it was at Dallas, right? That Dallas went right down to the end before they could pull the game off. So you never know, like what could happen in these games. I hope it does come down to the last game because I think.
Hey, listen, if they lose both, that's not going to bother me. That means I made my prediction on the Santos on Sports show before the year started and said this is what the Patriots are going to do, and it'll make me look good.
Yeah, that's right. Because it's 7-8, so you'd be 7-10. That's right. Now, if they win the next two, then it'll be 9-8, which is what I said. Yeah. And if they split, Karen Garigian came in, the brilliant Karen Garigian, 8-9. So anyway, it's been fun. All right, hey, this was a fun show. We really appreciate your calls.
Thanks
for coming and your comments on the comment line. And hey, hopefully we'll talk to you next week. For Chris Santos, I'm Paul Santos for Santos on Sports. Have a great night. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.